Hi, I'm Liliana. If you've somehow landed on this video, buckle in. What I'm about to show you today is not philosophy. It's not religion. It's not psychology. It's not science. It's all of them, just not in the way you expect. When I was 5 years old, I had a dream that I was sitting in a room full of scientists proving the existence of the human soul. Yes, at age 5. Yes, that was an oddly specific dream to have had. But that was not even the strange part of it for me. What was strange was how real that dream felt. Almost like I was replaying a memory. I know that this is not a room full of scientists, and I know that I'm not offering any peer reviewed papers, controlled variables, or presentations of scientific jargon. I can and am, though, offering something better: the truth, my experiment, my discovery, and my proof of a theory that seemed my own, yet seemed to come from outside of me. The answer to a question I first had at age 3 when I watched my grandfather drop dead of a heart attack mid conversation. Who, what, and why was the human soul? Harshly supervised and grudgingly confirmed by my worst critic, my worst skeptic, my saboteur, me. So here we are. Starting today, I'm introducing you to the blueprint of consciousness, otherwise known as the human soul: who it is, what it is, and why it is. I am not the source of this information. A higher power is. I am a messenger, I'm human, and I continue to evolve my understanding. In this video, I'll show you what the soul actually looks like as a functional structure, a multidimensional, multiprocessor system that receives, interprets, and transmutes energy into the human experience of life. In future videos, I'll break this down in detail. But today, let's meet the architecture. Who is the soul? The soul is a particle of energy that experiences three fundamental energies of creation in action. These three energies are light energy, expansive, warm, forward moving, the universal feminine energy. Next, dark energy, dense, cold, restrictive, or downward moving, the universal masculine energy. Third, neutral energy, stabilizing, stilling, anchoring, the universal balancer energy. These three energies flow together in a three-dimensional spiral, never touching one another, never interacting. Now, this made me very curious because, to me, if the soul is an energy particle and these are energies, is the soul interacting with itself? And then, soul spoke to me. The soul is a distinct energy. It is consciousness, the fourth fundamental energy of creation, the energy without which there would be no one to interact with, the other three energies or create anything. Consciousness as an energy is weightless and formless. It has a scattering momentum, yet a connecting impact. Consciousness exists in 12 dimensions and experiences the three fundamental and other three fundamental energies of creation vertically through all the 12 dimensions and horizontally across each dimension in a forward motion. The soul is a particle of consciousness that comes from the 12th dimension, source of all fundamental energies, and travels to the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimension to have the human experience. Now, consciousness flows through other beings as well, the sun, the stars, the hydrogen atom, the plants and animals. But the soul is different. It has a high level of sentience, meaning capacity to have subjective experiences, feelings, sensations like pleasure, pain, fear, joy, rather than live emotionlessly like the sun or the hydrogen atom, or in survival mode like animals or some plants even. And human beings, the human soul, also has the ability to access various kinds of energy, intelligence, survival intelligence, rational or intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. So, why does the soul create? Depending on the soul's sentience level and intelligence abilities, each soul has an extraordinary intellectual, emotional, and spiritual potential when compared to lesser sentient beings. The soul's mission is to achieve its full intellectual, emotional, and spiritual potential. The soul's purpose is to remember that to achieve any single potential fully, it must use all forms of its intelligence. The soul's journey is to take as many or as few lives as the soul needs and wants. And by lives, I mean lifetimes, as the soul needs and wants to remember its purpose and complete its mission. And the soul creates life to complete this journey. So, how does the soul interact with these three energies? Through sentience and intelligence, the soul uses alchemy or the application of the laws of creation to choose which of the energies it wants to interact with and how to transmute one kind of energy into another. In this process, it generates light matter, dark matter, and shadow matter, which matter has both light particles and dark particles. This is basically how the soul thinks, feels, believes, and manifests. Let's call this process creation. In the third dimension, the soul uses rational or intellectual intelligence to transmute human intellectual potential into material success. In the fourth dimension, the soul uses emotional intelligence and perception to transmute human emotional potential into emotional fulfillment. And in the fifth dimension, the soul uses discernment and spiritual intelligence to transmute human spiritual potential into spiritual fulfillment. So, what does the soul look like? The soul is a complex, multidimensional structure composed of 11 energy processors, which are preloaded with energetic charges. Yes, preloaded, we'll get to that. Let's move from the top down. In the fifth dimension, here we have the highest self, the captain of the ship, the chairman of the board, the head of the family, the one who knows the purpose and the mission, the one who is always connected to source, even when all of it, including itself, is convinced that it is spiritually unsupervised and emotionally abandoned. When awakened, the highest self drives leadership, discipline, and personal power. Next, the fourth dimension. This layer is the strategic and emotional intelligence suite of the soul structure. In the middle, we have the higher self. Creativity, vision, and perspective come from here. This part gets activated when our emotional nervous system is stable enough to perceive reality clearly, away from the noise coming from the third dimensional structure. Easier said than done. On one side of the higher self, we have the inner feminine, the light energy receptor. She seeks expansion, resonance, and soulful connection. This is where empathy, nurture, intuition, and abundance emerge. To the other side, we have the inner masculine or the dark energy receptor. He looks for safety, boundaries, and protection. This is where assertiveness, ambition, and rational intelligence come from. Together, these three determine, if anything, a relationship, job, dream, or idea is worth the time and cost of energy. In the third dimension, we have the operational ground floor of the soul structure. It is located in the human body through the 7 chakras. At the center, we have the inner child, the heart chakra. This one controls human behavior by default until the higher self steps in, which I think explains a lot. Surrounding the inner child, these 4 are the energy interpreters. These 2 here are the feminine or the light energy interpreters. The inner explorer or the third eye, this one, the inner exile or the sacral chakra. These 2 particles here are the dark energy interpreters or the masculine interpreters. The inner protector or the throat chakra and the inner predator or the solar plexus chakra. The job of these 4 interpreters is to consider an incoming energetic interaction and decide, who do I need to be right now in this interaction to feel safe and connected? What personality traits, roles, masks, and identities, beliefs, thoughts, behavior patterns do I need to draw on to feel safe, connected in this interaction? Once they provide this feedback to the inner child either acts alone or calls the fourth dimension in for backup. Finally, we have the 2 emitters, the crown chakra, which is the light emitter, and the root chakra, which is the dark emitter. Their job is to release leftover energetic residue after the structure processes an energetic interaction, separating dark matter, light matter, shadow matter, absorbing the energies that need absorbing, and releasing the rest. So far, this sounds very elegant, like a cosmic Apple product launch. Except it is not. Because there's a massive communication gap in the structure. The captain is asleep at at the wheel. None of the other processors know the hierarchy of the structure. None of them necessarily know their job, and they're all preloaded with these energetic charges, which make them unstable and malfunction should they actually turn up to do their job. And they don't know this either. These preloaded energetic charges that I speak of, these are based on epigenetics, ancestral lineage, family survival patterns, wounds, traumas, and sins and blessings, I guess, of the previous lifetimes. Which means that when the soul lands here in this birth, it's kind of in hard reboot mode, I think that's the term I'm looking for. And from early childhood, from birth to early adulthood, it is the third dimension that runs the show. The experiences we get during these time train these interpreters to create behavioral patterns to keep the human safe, loved, included. These patterns become the ego. Now, in a world where most of humanity today has grown up around generations of emotional chaos, volatility, neglect, conflict, rage, rejection, abandonment, resentment, injustice, oppression, scarcity, shame, guilt, or love that felt like fear and control, the individual and collective ego is shaped by fear, control, and craving based behavior patterns aimed at instant gratification of deeper, unsettling emotional gaps and issues. Now, a lot of us manage to just dress this up in masks of nice personality traits, which are, as it turns out, simply light projections of our dark energetic charges. Neuroscience refers to this as default network mode. Modern psychology calls this fear based survival patterns. I call them polished coping mechanisms. Now, if this ego driven survival strategy leads to material success, the ego strengthens and refuses to let the fourth dimension in. Left unchecked, this blocks emotional, spiritual intelligence, perspective, and discernment, meaning a person starts behaving in ways of toxic confidence, positivity, masculinity, femininity, toxic coping mechanism, chronic escapism, chronic health issues, anxiety, depression, emotional avoidance, internal shutdown, relational conflict. Basically, this is what a hostile takeover of the soul by the ego looks and feels like. If this resonates, the invitation is to pause and reassess. Or don't. Either way, the toxic structure doesn't hold up for too long. The system will eventually diffuse the charges and reset the soul's energetic baseline, with or without you. An activation event or a series of emotionally activating events. I call them lifequakes because they're like earthquakes, but in life. They trigger what can feel like a nervous system collapse or a spiritual awakening. No one needs to wait until a lifequake hits. Or maybe they do, like me. Because I'm that stubborn. And I was that taken over by ego. When I eventually did heed the call to spiritual awakening, I found that there were many pathways to diffusing these energetic charges, and I tried most. But my favorite is the one that I built for myself: emotional alchemy. Understanding and applying the laws of energetic interactions to make sense of human emotions and build better quality relationships. This brings us to the end of today's tour. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. See you next time. Bye.